you so much for joining us tonight for the Candidate Summit. Let me give you a little bit of information about what we're doing here and why. The way I see it, Donald Trump represented a death spiral for American democracy. Unfortunately, Joe Biden has broken that death spiral. On the other hand, America is still in decline. And if we're not careful, all that will happen now with the neoliberal government is that we will manage the decline. We need to do more than manage America's decline. We need to end it. We need to move in a different direction. And yet, the status quo does not disrupt itself. And there is a corporatist status quo that is very entrenched in both political parties. Now, in order to actually represent a change, in order to represent more than relief, in order to represent more than rescue, we need to represent reform. We need structural reform in this country. There are so many issues, from wealth inequality to the danger, the existential crisis of the environment, to racial inequity, to violence, not only on the streets of the United States, not only police brutality, but also as represented by the perpetual American war machine. These are issues which must be spoken to and acted upon at much deeper levels than the current political establishment wants to address. And even within the Democratic Party, there is a tendency of the establishment leadership to choose and to support candidates that do not represent the kind of fundamental interruption of the status quo that I'm speaking of. For that, we need the serious progressive candidates. There are some serious progressives in Congress, but we need a lot more. And one of the places where we need to make sure they happen is in the primaries, not just the elections in 2022, but in the primaries. Now, what we also know is that the real problem with American politics is that our government is little more than a system of legalized bribery. The undue influence of money, specifically corporate money, is so great. And we complain about it all the time. We complain about the undue influence of the health insurance companies and the big pharmaceutical companies, why we don't have Medicare for all. We know about the undue influence of big ag and chemical companies and food companies, why we have corruption in our food supply, why we have corruption in our water. We know about the undue influence of gun manufacturers and how they make sure that we don't have the kind of common sense gun safety that we should have. We know about the undue influence of big fossil fuel companies, why we don't have the kind of fight against climate change that we should have, and why our own government does things to support the industries that create even more problems with climate change. And of course, we all understand the military-industrial complex and the undue influence of defense contractors in American foreign policy. And yet, there is only one way to counter this. There is only one way to override the behemoth of this corporatist oligarchy that now has such undue influence in American politics. The only way is through a citizens' revolution of activism unlike anything we have ever seen. We need to go to the polls in ways we have never gone before. And by the way, the regressive elements in American society are very clear about this. That's why they're passing voter suppression laws all over the country. They know where the answer lies. They know the answer lies in an awakening among the American people that will take us straight to the polls. That's why we're here tonight. But it also means that we have to get these progressives in on the level of their primaries. We all know what happened on the level of the presidential primary. The same thing happens on the congressional level. When the establishment comes around looking for candidates, they look for those who can self-fund. They look for those who already have the kind of connections, money, and power that will enable them to be more successful. But also that's why they vote the way they vote too many times once they get there. And then we ask ourselves, why don't we have more policies that really support the working people of the United States? The reason we don't have more policies that support working people is because not enough of the policymakers are working people. By definition, that means people who do not necessarily have the contacts. They can't self-fund. They can't throw $1 million of their own money. They don't have the kind of corporate support that would even allow them to get anywhere close to the establishment positions. And that's why I have such admiration for people who are out there and are doing it anyway. And that's why I'm always looking, who are the people who, no matter what, they are making a stand. They are working people in the United States, and they are the ones who, if they go to Congress, will make those structural changes, will make those structural reforms, economically, environmentally, educationally, in terms of domestic and foreign policy. But if we want them to get elected, If we want them to be the nominees, we have to make it happen. And that's why we're all here tonight. So I'm going to be introducing you to people who have been endorsed by me, but I don't just like look at people and think, oh, that looks great. I love what they stand for. No, I take very seriously my endorsements. And I know that those of you who see my endorsements, you know that that comes with an implicit request that you support these people. You support them with your dollars and with your energy. And I don't want you to think that I take that lightly. So I have a mentor, and that is the marvelous Howie Klein. Many of you know him from the Down with Tyranny blog. And Howie Klein is someone who you could say to Howie about any of the 435 congresspeople, any of the 100 senators. If I say their name, Howie Klein can tell me. Now, this is what they say they stand for. This is what they actually vote for. And this is who pays them. These are the people who this whole time I haven't had my microphone on. I hope that you've heard anything that I have said. And so Howie will be able to tell me who the people are that support these people's campaigns. So I'd like to introduce you to my friend, my colleague, and in many ways, my mentor, Howie Klein. Howie, hi, welcome.
Hey, Marianne. I thought there was something wrong with my phone.
Well, you're on.
Hello?
And a lot of people are listening to you. Can you hear me?
I hear you. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I do hear you. So tell me how.
Okay, good.
Tell me, I have told so many of these candidates when I first talked to them, well, if you can get past Howie, you can get past me. Tell me why we made the choices of the people that we have endorsed for the Progressive Candidate Summit.
Oh, thanks for asking. It's not just because all of them support Medicare for all and the Green New Deal. It's not just because all of them want to turn the minimum wage into a living wage. It's not just because of criminal justice reform and education reform and economic justice. It's not just that, because anyone can say that. These are all people that I've tried to get to know and see what's in their heart and know what they're going to fight for, not what they're going to just sign on to as a passive a supporter and not do anything about, but really fight for. Some of the candidates that are on your list, Marianne, are people who are going up against long-term incumbents who might, join the Progressive Caucus. Some of them do, some of them don't, or who might, say that they support Medicare for all or they support the Green New Deal, but none of them are actually doing anything about it. None of them are fighting for it. None of them are educating their constituents about it. None of them are doing anything. These candidates that we're supporting are the real deal. These are people who aren't just going to mouth the platitudes from Bernie Sanders' website. These are people who are running because of these issues. That's the reason that they're running, and that's the reason why we want to support them. I hope that answers the question.
It answered the question perfectly. I just want to make sure that everybody knows that you didn't mean that Bernie Sanders only talks platitudes, because we all need to say the things he's saying. It's just that you're saying they're going to carry it further. I don't know. I get sensitive about anything that makes.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. I love Bernie.
Of course we do. Okay, Howie, thank you for that marvelous explanation. Thank you to all of you for being here. So before I introduce the first candidate, I just want to say real quickly, please don't think your $5 doesn't matter. You can see there on the candidatesummit.com, you can see in the chat, you can see everywhere you're looking, the donation link. And as I've made very, very clear, these are not people who are going to be getting these huge corporate donations at all. They're not going to be getting necessarily any of that. But what we can do is create with small donations, a lot of people giving the kind of support to these people that they need. And in these primaries, a lot of times, Howie was saying to me earlier tonight, usually people do their giving later in the season. Now is when it matters. If you want to see progressive candidates, now is when it matters. $5, $10, please don't think any amount is too small. If you go into the donation link and you give a donation, the money that you give will be distributed equally to each one of the 16 candidates. We have 13 congressional candidates, 2 senatorial candidates, and 1 gubernatorial. If you just give in general, we will distribute it equally, but there's also a place where you can look individually. If when you're listening to one particular candidate, you go, oh, I want to give a little more to that one, by all means do. All that's up to you. My job is just to introduce you to these wonderful people, to welcome you, to thank you, to explain it to you why we're here, and I think we've done that. Let's get started. Here they are, everybody, the wonderful people who we've endorsed for the Progressive Candidate Summit. Here you are. They're all coming up any moment. That's Alexandra Hunt. And that is Derek Marshall. Alexandra is from Pennsylvania. Derek's from California. I see Christine Olivo from Florida. I see Charles Thompson from Houston. I see Angelica Duenas from California. I see Jason Call from Washington State. I see Erica Smith running for Senate in North Carolina. I see Lee Carter running for governor in Virginia. I see Jessica Mason running in North Dallas. I see Muad Rezi running in Connecticut, District 1. I see Colin Byrd running for U.S. Senate in Maryland. I see Shervin Azami running for Congress from the San Fernando Valley outside Los Angeles, and of course, maybe a girl also from California, from the Los Angeles area, and Ali Dulcimer from Virginia, District 11. These are our endorsees. I hope that in your heart, you're opening up to all of them, and all of them have an opportunity right now to tell you who they are, why they're here, and what they will do if you send them to office. Okay, let's get started with Shervin Azami from California, District 30.
Good evening. My name is Shervin Azami, and I'm running for U.S. Congress in my hometown, West San Fernando Valley, California's 30th district. I am a husband, a public health activist, an organizer, and soon to be dad, as my wife and I expect our first child in June. I am the proud son of 2 Iranian asylum seekers who fled religious persecution and immigrated to America in search of a better life. As a kid, my mom worked 7 days a week in retail while my dad went back to school to become a family doctor. I always say I learned the power of responsibility from my mother and the power of service from my father. I have always fought for social justice through the lens of public health. Some of my proudest achievements came when I was legislative director for a national indigenous healthcare nonprofit, where our advocacy led to new laws that canceled copays and deductibles for Native American veterans, guaranteed long-term funding for community health centers, and delivered over $4 billion to tribal governments to respond to COVID-19. But the fact is, we have too many issues to continue responding with small ideas and band-aids on bullet wounds. Our campaign is about enacting the bold structural reforms we need to actually serve the public interest. As a public health professional, I know that in order to build healthy environments, we need to ensure all of our fundamental needs are met. These include single-payer healthcare, housing as a human right, clean air and water, strong public education, and living wage jobs, to name a few. There is zero reason beyond corporate greed and political cowardice that the wealthiest nation in the world cannot guarantee these fundamental rights. I firmly believe that budgets reflect values and priorities. To put that into context, we could eradicate homelessness in America with 10% of the Pentagon budget. Our lawmakers choose not to because their commitment is not to us. It's to maintaining the status quo. All of our progressive campaigns are here to change that. We have mounting crises in the West San Fernando Valley and across Los Angeles. We have 5 unhoused neighbors die per day in our city. We have over 1,000 uncapped oil wells spewing noxious chemicals into our Black and Latinx neighborhoods. Over 80% of the men incarcerated in our local jails are Black or Latino. We have undocumented neighbors living under constant fear of ICE raids and deportation. Over 1/3 of our state's 3.4 million uninsured reside in LA. We have thousands of families living paycheck to paycheck in a city with astronomical cost of living and manufactured scarcity when it comes to affordable housing. The largest natural gas leak in US history happened in our district at Aliso Canyon. The largest nuclear meltdown in US history happened in our district at the Santa Susana Field Lab. Neither have been shut down and neither have begun cleanup. And the fact of the matter is that here in Los Angeles, home of the Iranian diaspora, lovingly referred to as Tehrangeles, our congressman still touts the fact that he was one of 19 corporate Democrats to vote against diplomacy in voting against the Iran deal. The issues my community face enrage me on the daily Because make no mistake, the injustices in our nation are the rotten fruits born out of corrupt and failed leadership in Congress. My opponent, Brad Sherman, is a hawkish, pro-war corporate Democrat that exemplifies absent leadership. In his over 2 decades as a federal lawmaker, he hasn't championed a single progressive law because his corporate donors, which include weapons dealers, private prisons, commercial banks, and credit card companies, ensure that any support is performative and any action is immaterial. I have fought and won the battles for bold change in my community. I am ready to lead my community in that fight for change on Capitol Hill. This is our moment, together as a movement, to establish a politics of working people. Please join us at ShermanForTheValley.com. Let's do this.
I'm convinced. Go to candidatesummit.com. Give this man some love, please. Wonderful, Shervin. Thank you. All right, next up is Colin Byrd. He's running for the United States Senate from the state of Maryland. Colin.
First of all, good evening, and thank you so much, Ms. Williamson. I am super duper humbled and grateful to be here with you, a champion of so many important issues, from reparations to addressing the Flint water crisis. You have led in ways that are very inspiring to me. I just want to start, if you don't mind, with a quote, and that is, love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. I'm running for U.S. Senate in the great state of Maryland because I love the people of my city. I'm the mayor of Greenbelt, Maryland. I'm humbled and grateful to serve as the mayor of Greenbelt, Maryland, as well as the youngest African-American mayor in the country. Not only do I love the people of Greenbelt, I love the people of my county, Prince George's County, and I love the people of the great state of Maryland, as well as the people all across this country. I think for too long in America, we have heard politicians talk about the American dream without acknowledging the bigger problem, which is the pervasiveness of the American nightmare. We see it across the board: poverty, police brutality, overinvestment in war. From issue to issue, we see the American nightmare, and I believe that we need to wake up and rise up to help end this nightmare. To help you understand why I'm running, I'm just going to run down a couple of examples of things that are inspiring me in this particular campaign. First of all, the incumbent does not support Medicare for all. I do. Second, the incumbent supported the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement, which was a Donald Trump agreement that does not address the high prescription drug prices that could be addressed in such an agreement, and does not address the rising threat of climate change and higher greenhouse gas emissions. We also need to be pushing back against the current administration. While, of course, he's better than the past president or the last president, you know, we still have a president who just proposed an additional $13 million in the budget for the Defense Department. You also have a president who proposed a $2,000 stimulus checks $1,400 stimulus checks after promising $2,000 checks. And every single one of the U.S. senators, including the one that I'm running against, supported $1,400 rather than the $2,000, breaking the biggest campaign promise that was made in Georgia just prior to that election. We also saw the stripping by the U.S. Senate of the minimum wage from the bill. We saw the lowering of weekly unemployment benefits from the bill. And we also saw, over the last several months, an extremely inequitable rollout of the vaccine. On top of that, we just saw an infrastructure bill, for example, that comes $8 trillion short of what progressives in the House have been calling for. A $2 trillion stimulus bill, which is less than what was promised on the campaign trail. And that means less jobs. It means less money to deal with America's backlog of repairs, whether it's road repairs, bridge repairs, transit repairs, housing, public housing, electric vehicle charging stations, transmission lines. We have a president, we have a U.S. Senate that has not come to the conclusion, including many Democratic senators, that we need to ban fracking, right? That we need to expand the Supreme Court after it was stolen from liberals by the last president and by a Republican Senate that was not afraid to use their power. And so, you know, these are the types of things that I'm running on. I also will tell you that it's important for us to have U.S. senators who are very focused on confirming progressives and rejecting those who do not support our values. the incumbent U.S. Senator supported Tom Vilsack as the Secretary of the Agriculture Department. This is a man who was literally opposed by most major civil rights groups all across all across the country, and by Black farmers because of his record in past administrations, and because of his over-support of corporate farms over the interests of family farms. And so
I have a great interest in corporate agriculture and calling big ag on its malfeasance as well. I must go on to the next candidate.
Absolutely. Thank you.
This is a big race, an important one. This is Colin Byrd, who is running for the U.S. Senate in Maryland. Remember, candidatesummit.com. Thank you very, very much. All right, Jason Call, you're up from the state of Washington. Jason, tell us what you got.
Thank you so much. My name is Jason Call. I'm running for Congress for the second time in Washington's 2nd District. We're a little bit north of Seattle to almost the Canadian border, and plus the islands in the beautiful North Puget Sound. I was a high school math teacher for almost 20 years. I've been a union activist, a building rep. I was elected by my colleagues multiple years to sit on the local union executive board, as well as represent them at the state union assembly. I'm a father and stepfather of 4 teens from 9th grade through the first year in college, and my wife is in college herself for her second career as a radiation therapist. So we know all too well, the anxiety of college debt. And as my daughter looks to start her own college journey next year, we're wondering where that money's going to come from and how much she's going to owe at the end of it. I want to say I'm so grateful to be here in this wonderful room, and thank you so much, Marianne, for your advocacy. But we're all here to support policies that center love and justice, not conflict, greed, and exploitation. And progressive issues are all tied together, whether we're talking about housing, healthcare, wages, education, the environment, and foreign policy. This is all one and the same, and we have to fight for all of them equally hard. I'm going to be 50 years old in a couple of months. I've been an anti-war activist for 30 years, since I was 19 years old, a sophomore at the University of Washington, protesting the first invasion of Iraq in 1990. I speak out frequently on U.S. policies of global imperialism and colonialism that negatively impact not only the poorest in the world, but have deep repercussions on our own national identity and continue to foment violence and systemic racism and xenophobia here at home. It's amazing to me that we have an administration that has proposed an ever-increasing military budget. As Colin said, another $13 billion on top of what was proposed by former President Trump. We have to end this. I'm also a healthcare activist. I'm a board member of Whole Washington, a volunteer activist group. We are trying to pass single-payer healthcare in Washington state in the absence of a federal bill. If you've seen my campaign ad from my 2020 run, you know that my mother died before her time because bean counters in the for-profit health insurance industry denied her a critical post-surgery stay. We have to end the murderous reign of the for-profit health industry and move to a federal single-payer Medicare for all system. Our people deserve better. We have people suffering and dying needlessly. We have elders who aren't being cared for the way they need to be. And I want to say that I'm running against verifiably the most corporate Democrat in Washington state, Rick Larsen, who's been in office for 20 years. My district is a solidly blue district. Larsen gets over 50% of his career funding from corporate PACs. He's deeply tied to the war machine, the fossil fuel industry, the transportation industry, the banking industry, the healthcare industry, you name it. He's taken money from them, including the tobacco industry and the Koch brothers. And for this payout, he's repeatedly said he will not co-sponsor Medicare for all. And he's called the Green New Deal not an important resolution. He's not only voted for every war budget, but against withdrawing troops from Afghanistan. He's also voted to repeal parts of the Dodd-Frank banking regulations, to repeal the estate tax, and he's voted against every alternative budget proposed by the Progressive Caucus and the Congressional Black Caucus. And add to this, he's just a bad legislator. He hasn't gotten a bill signed into law since 2013. And of all the Democrats elected in 2000, he has the least floor speaking time. In the last session, he didn't even get a bill out of committee. So it's time for a change. It's time to demand better. We missed the general election by 1% in the last cycle. Washington is a top 2 primary state. We seek to be on the ballot next to Rick Larsen, Democrat against Democrat in Washington state, and we're going to win it this time. Thank you so much. Callforcongress.com. Call for Congress on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I look forward to your support, and thank you so much.
Thank you. You made me want to move to Seattle just so I could vote. Is it Seattle or around Seattle?
A little bit north of Seattle. I'm about 20 miles north of Seattle and then up to the Canadian border.
I wish I could vote for you myself. Okay, everybody, you can help Jason at candidatesummit.com. Our next candidate up tonight is running for a gubernatorial seat. He's running for governor of Virginia, and that, of course, is Lee Carter. I was talking before to Howie, and Howie Klein has said to me, if Lee Carter wins, if he becomes the governor of Virginia, he will be the best governor in the United States. Lee Carter, welcome. What you got?
Well, thank you so much. Having some issues with my camera on the sides all of a sudden, but I'm Lee Carter. I'm running for governor of Virginia. And, you know, I don't come from a normal background for a politician, right? Like Jason Call, I've got a Brady Bunch family with 4 kids, although mine are a little younger. The oldest is my 11-year-old stepson. The youngest is 6 weeks today. But you know, I don't come from a normal background for a politician. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a millionaire. I'm an electronics repairman and a veteran. And I got involved in Virginia politics a few years ago because I got hurt at work in the summer of 2015. And it was that experience dealing with the workers' comp system that made me realize that the systems that are supposed to protect working people are not there for us when we need them the most. And so, you know, I decided to step up and run for the state house back in 2017. And I took on a fight that everyone said was impossible. I challenged an 11-year incumbent, a member of Republican Party leadership in a district that was gerrymandered specifically for him. And by building a multiracial working class coalition, we were able to reach out to thousands of people who had never voted in a state house race before, get them to show up and vote for a better future. We flipped this district from an arch conservative to a bastion of progressive working class politics here in Virginia. And you might be asking, wait a minute, 2017, 2021, what's going on there? Well, Virginia has our state elections in odd numbered years. So I'm actually on the primary ballot on June 8th of this year. That's less than 2 months away. And I'm running against a close friend of the Clinton family, former Governor Terry McAuliffe, a guy who increased police budgets by 21% while he was governor the first time, a guy who built pipeline after pipeline, running fracked gas through our national and state parks. I am running to truly transform this Commonwealth. I am the only candidate in my 5-way primary who has never taken a single dime from any for-profit fossil fuel corporation. I've never taken a single dime from any big bank. I've never taken a single dime from any police organization. I've never taken from any for-profit corporation or industry interest group. I never have, and I never will, even though we're in a state with absolutely no limits on campaign contributions. So Terry McAuliffe is drowning in millions of dollars of corporate cash. One of my other opponents took $850,000 from the owners of one hedge fund. And I am running fully funded by the people. What am I running for? To continue the progress that I've made in the Virginia House of Delegates. I spearheaded the fight on abolishing the death penalty in Virginia. We got that done this year. I spearheaded the fight on legalizing cannabis in the Commonwealth of Virginia. We got that done this year. I spearheaded the fight on capping insulin copays at no more than $50 for a month's supply. We got that done last year. And as governor, I will fight not only for Medicare for all from our congressional representatives, but for a state level single payer program that will guarantee every Virginian has health care, not access, not affordability, health care, period. I will fight for a zero carbon economy by 2030, not 2050 like all my opponents are bragging about. And I will fight to make sure that we are reducing police and prison budgets. I will make sure that we are no longer a leader in mass incarceration. Under my administration, we will reduce our prison population in Virginia by at least 30% in 4 years, even if I have to sign thousands of clemency petitions one by one myself. I am fighting to make this not just a commonwealth, but a place where wealth is common, where everyone can live and work and not have to worry about how they're going to put food on the table or how they're going to make their rent, or whether or not they can see a doctor or afford to put their kids through college, or whether they're going to be discriminated against based on who they are, who they love, or who they were born to be. So again, thank you so much for having
Thank
me here
you, Lee.
tonight. I'm Lee Carter. Go to carterforvirginia.com to learn more about me.
Okay,
Woo!
everybody, you know, it's so obvious once you see it. So you've got these corporate candidates, you've got these multimillionaire candidates, you've got all these all this corporate money that goes into supporting candidates that pass the policies that we all know that have led America to the state of a decline that we're in now. And then we have people like Lee Carter, who would be a very different kind of governor, who would stand for the progressive values that so many of us want to see in play. But if we want that to happen, we have to support it. And I want to emphasize once again, no amount is too small. Please go to candidatesummit.com. And also remember that, that Lee's race is soon, his primary is soon. So if you can give him a little more support, I'm hoping that you're gonna just want to support everybody, but let's remember his race is soon. Thank you, Lee. And our next candidate is also from the Commonwealth of Virginia, and that's Allie Dalsimer from Virginia's District 11. Allie, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much, Marianne. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for this opportunity. I am running for Congress in Virginia's 11th District, which encompasses a little under 1 million people in Prince William and Fairfax counties, south and west of Washington, D.C. I'm an environmental expert, a single mother of 2, and a widow who saw firsthand why profit should not be a part of healthcare. Growing up, my family was very involved in the environmental movement, in the civil rights movement, and in the national women's movement. I spent my first 5 years after school bartending and waitressing until I decided I didn't want to work night weekends and every holiday. And then I took a job with a nonprofit environmental foundation in DC. And I chose that job over another offer I had with a corporate law firm because I needed to know that what I did every day made a positive difference, even though the law firm was offering a 40% higher salary. And that decision launched my 30-year career as a natural resources environmental professional, culminating with managing Department of Defense's Natural Resources Program. And during my time, I worked with federal and state agencies, environmental groups, educational groups, nonprofits, so many others to create and launch multiple regional, national, and international conservation initiatives. I worked every day during those 30 years to create processes and policies and procedures that streamlined things, saved money, saved thousands of work hours, prioritized important issues, and saved money. And during my, sorry.
You're doing great, Allie.
Thank you, I'm a little nervous.
You're doing just great.
So my last activities as Department of Defense's Natural Resources Program Manager were actually to go down to the Department of Interior to defend DOD's ability to manage migratory birds, given the Trump administration's reinterpretation of the Migratory Bird Treaty Act, and to make sure that DOD land managers had a step-by-step guide for incorporating climate considerations into their natural resources management plans, which was not popular with OSD leadership, but was the #1 priority defined by the DOD biologist on the ground. Shortly after that, the Trump administration did eliminate my position with DOD due to lack of funding. And that was really frustrating. And combined with everything else that was going on in 2020, really angered me and made me want to make a difference, to do something, but I didn't know how to channel my energies. And I was watching Knock Down the House with my son, and he turned and looked at me and said, "Mom, you need to run for Congress." And so I really thought about that. And I was watching the news one night, and the newscaster came on and said that my representative, Jerry Connolly, had held up the HEROES Act for 48 hours so that he could add a $3 billion rider to support military contractors. And for me, that was it. That was the defining moment. And I said, okay, I have to step up. I have to do what's right, not what's easy. And I have to be the change that everyone here wants to see, right? And so I knew I wanted to really make an effort. And so in Virginia's 11th district, it's a +15 Democratic district. The incumbent takes 90% of his money from corporate PACs and mega donors. He takes more money from the military-industrial complex than all but 8 members of Congress. He's the 9th, and he has an F rating from Progressive Punch. So our plan is to build on the momentum that was started in the last primary, where a true grassroots challenger announced her campaign in the January before the June primary, and who only raised $28,000 and still got nearly a quarter of the vote. Because Lee is right, things are shifting in Virginia. It's becoming a much more blue district. And so I'm running for Congress because this district, as well as the state, is ready for a change. And because I have a 3-decade proven track record of implementing transformative, beneficial change and of doing hard things for the right reasons, facing many obstacles.
Thank
And
you.
all I'm really asking for is just a shot, a fair chance.
Oh, no, you need more than a fair, why, that's the point. You need a fair chance. And I want to say a little word about Allie here. We need people who understand what Allie brings to the table. We need environmental scientists. We need environmental experts who will come to Congress and know what they're doing. The climate change denial, the denial of the terrible damage that industrial agriculture, chemical companies, et cetera, are doing to our environment is so important. Allie was talking about birds. And those of you who follow me on Twitter know that I love birds because I love to post pictures of birds. Over the last 50 years, due to industrial agriculture, we have lost half of our bird population. And there are too many people in the US Congress for whom that doesn't even that doesn't even register. These are the kinds of things that should be registering, things like species extinction, all of the environmental issues that Allie was talking about. When you compare that to the person who is serving in that district now, who gets more money from the military industrial complex than 8 other members of Congress, I mean, come on, everybody. Give it up, even if it's only $5, $10, whatever. Allie, I hope that you get the support that you need. Congress would be a much, much better place if you were there. Allie Dulcimer, go to candidatesummit.com. And now, everybody, we're going to have a little break in sequence because one of our candidates is particularly busy, can't be with us all the time tonight because she is so busy because hers is a special election. It's coming up soon. She's someone that we all already know and love, someone that I'm honored to call my friend, someone whose candidacy I'm particularly enthused about, as I'm sure you are too. Give it up, I would say, if we were in a live auditorium somewhere. Nina Turner, Senator Nina Turner. Hi, Nina.
Oh, Marianne, how are you, darling?
Oh, great to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me and all of my colleagues here. And we are colleagues in some form or fashion on the battlefield for justice, baby. That makes us colleagues. I thank you for doing this for us. It really means a lot. You being side by side with many of us as we fight to get into these offices to be able to do what is right, what is just, and what is good.
What are you doing? Tell us about your campaign. Tell us about what's at stake here. Tell us how it's going and tell us what you should be standing for. I know a lot of us, including myself, I think if Nina's standing for it, probably I am too. What's going on for you in your campaign?
Well, thank you. Only all that we love is on the line. That's all. Mm-hmm. That's it. Nothing too big, just all that we love. But things are really going well. And I want to thank the progressives all over this country. Particularly, I want to shout out my home district, Ohio 11th, for what they are doing to help us win this race. And then by extension, our sisters and brothers across the country. You know, no woman and no man is an island. It does take all of us to move in a similar direction when it comes to justice. And justice is not a destination. It is indeed a journey, generation after generation after generation. We are working incredibly hard. One of the things, Marianne, that we have been talking about on this journey of mine, and I feel like very much I'm a conduit for something that is much bigger. I am running for the seat in the Ohio 11th district, but by extension, I am running to lift up this movement with other sisters and brothers across this country. But I definitely had the courage to ask for more, and this is what this is about. When we talk about, Medicare for all or canceling student debt, the courage to ask for more. We have a poverty rate in my district of about 25%. The courage to ask for more, to say that we must give a $2,000 a month while we battle this COVID for the working poor in my district and all across this country, is about the courage to ask for more. As we look at increases to the military industrial complex, even under this very administration right now, saying that we got to invest more of that money on the domestic side of the ledger, is the courage to ask for more. Canceling student debt, the courage to ask for more. So that is what my race is about. Real COVID, not, I won't say, but deeper COVID relief. I will definitely give the Biden administration some credit for the $1.9 trillion COVID relief. We gotta do more than that. And certainly when you are walking in the right direction, sometimes it requires you to run in the right direction, but you don't stop, you keep going. And that is what this is about, the courage to ask for more. And so I am running to continue my justice journey for the poor, the working poor, and the barely middle class, to center those people who occupy those groups for a change as we battle. And you talk about this all the time, Marianne. This is the second wave. And I've heard Labor Secretary Robert Reich, this is the second wave of the Gilded Age. Predatory capitalism run amok, and it is suffocating and choking the life out of so many of us. And we need this system to bend to the will of the everyday people of this nation. That will only happen when we elect more progressives to that Congress, more conscious-minded people to that Congress, and also with the activists that are outside of that, having that righteous indignation. Those two forces will get us the change that we need in this hegemon nation that has decided through policy to make it so that the lives of the poor and the working poor and the barely middle class does not count as much as people who have more money. It is unseemly, it is immoral, and just as that has been done on purpose, we can undo it on purpose. So I'm going to that Congress to lend my voice, my time, my talent, and the pressure to turn this thing around.
You know, it's so interesting, Nina, that you talked about asking for more. The American people have been trained to ask for too little. If the average American saw how little they get from their government compared to citizens of other advanced democracies, whether it has to do with healthcare, educational support, economic opportunity on so many levels. Well, you are a leader to all of us. When is the special, explain a little bit to people who wouldn't know about Marcia Fudge leaving, why it's a special election. Give people a little bit of background.
Yeah, thanks, Marianne. So Congresswoman Marcia Fudge, who's now Secretary Marcia Fudge, yes, she was confirmed, nominated certainly by President Biden, confirmed. And so that opened up the seat in Ohio 11th. Ohio 11th represents greater portions of greater Cleveland, and also portions of greater Akron, Cuyahoga, Summit County. And that opening allowed the opportunity for me to be able to run. The special election day is August the 3rd, but early voting begins on July the 7th.
It's just around the corner.
Just around the corner. Very important.
We wish you the best. Thank you. Thank you for joining us tonight. God bless you. And keep doing everything you're doing. Just keep being Nina Turner, and the world is blessed. Thank you so much.
God bless you. Thank you so much, Marianne. NinaTurner.com for anybody that wants to visit and join us in this fight. Thank you so much, Marianne.
Thank you so much. Okay, everybody, let's go back to all the other wonderful candidates that are with us tonight. We're going back to California. We're going back to Angelica Duenas from California, District 29. Hi, Angelica, how are you?
Hello, good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you tonight. My name is Angelica Duenas, and I am running for Congress in California's 29th Congressional District. Like Shervin, we are in the San Fernando Valley in the Los Angeles area. A low-income working class community. I am a working class mother of 5. I am a wife, a daughter, and a caregiver. I am a first-generation daughter of immigrants. My parents are from Mexico, neighboring towns actually, but they met next door in Pacoima, right here in my district. I am a lifetime resident of Sun Valley. In fact, I live in the same house I came home to from the hospital. My parents used to rent the back house studio and eventually bought the property from the family that lived here before. Similar to many people my age, I am an elder millennial, by the way. I have found that a lack of affordable housing, good paying jobs, quality tuition-free higher education, and all-inclusive single-payer healthcare have kept my family and my generation in a constant state of struggle. Seeing all of this and living all of this alongside my community, it made it clear to me that we have been left behind. So, out of depression, frustration, desperation, and a glimmer of hope, I was pushed to run for Congress. This is not my first time running, though. In 2020, my team and I were able to earn almost 44% of the vote while being outraced over 15 times. All of this while in the middle of a pandemic, with my husband laid off due to his employer shutting down because of COVID-19, and the hardest loss of all, the death of my father in the middle of the general campaign. We earned 91,524 votes with less than $80,000 raised from the grassroots, earning more votes than dollars spent. All of this against corporate Democrat Tony Cardenas and his $1.2 million raised from super PACs, mega corporations, and special interests. Yes, we almost unseated a longtime corporate incumbent with 100% people power. We did all of this with no consultants, no strategists, and nothing more than county data, Google Sheets, and an amazing team of volunteers. In 2022, we plan to close the gap and win our place in Congress to represent the East San Fernando Valley and the working class. But we can't do it alone. We need your help. Please visit our website, angelica4congress.com. That's Angelica, the number 4, congress.com. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Angelica, the number 4CA is how you can find us. Thank you again so much, and thank you for everyone for making tonight happen.
You know, everybody, I admit to having a real soft spot for these young women who are running. And I feel that way about Angelica. And I knew Angelica in the last run that she made. She was on a Progressive Candidate Summit. Also true of our next candidate who you will meet. I am so moved by Angelica and that she's doing all this with 5 children. 5 children. And without the kind of connections and corporate sponsor and money that others have. And yet, as she has already made so clear, look what she did in that last election. We can help her. She can get there. I see great things for you, Angelica. I always have. But you need the people around you. You're showing up to support the world. And we have to support you. And I hope everybody will run to candidatesummit.com and do what you can. I have a feeling about you. God bless you, darling. And I hope that tonight has helped you. Now, our next candidate is another somebody that I just adore from California, a good friend, I think, of Angelica's. They were very supportive of each other last time, and they've both done extraordinary things so far. And her story is really something, not just her politics, but her personal story and what she stands for. I'll let her tell you all about it. Maybe a girl from California, District 29. No, District 28, sorry.
Thank you so much, Marianne. Hey, everybody. My name is Maybe a Girl. My pronouns are she, her, and they, them. And I'm an out and proud trans person running for Congress. I'm running for Congress in California District 28, which includes Hollywood, West Hollywood, Central LA, the Valley, all the way north to the LA Forest. And this is my second time running. When I ran in 2020, we lost the primary election by less than 1%. Or only 1,114 votes. I'm running again against Adam Schiff because he's a corporate Democrat who's been in office since the year 2000. And I'm confident in saying that the status quo is not serving constituents in California District 28 or anywhere. One of my biggest issues is homelessness, and homelessness has increased in LA and in the district that I'm running in every year with double-digit increases for the past several years. More than 60,000 people in Los Angeles are experiencing homelessness. And these are people just like you and me, people who want to exist with dignity, to survive, and to thrive. And as Shervin mentioned earlier, 5 unhoused people are dying every single day in Los Angeles. We need people in office who will advocate for permanent supportive housing and more permanent services if we are to alleviate homelessness. We need to take a comprehensive and compassionate stance towards people experiencing homelessness because housing is a human right and healthcare is a human right. Medicare for all is essential. Furthermore, I'm running against Adam Schiff because he has told me personally that he is not in favor of abolishing ICE, which is despicable in a district that is more than 25% Latinx, many of those residents being immigrants. I'm running because we need to end mass incarceration, of which my opponent was a primary architect during his time as a California state senator. I'm running because we need to abolish the military-industrial complex, and my opponent, Adam Schiff, has accepted hundreds of thousands of dollars in campaign donations from the defense industry and weapons manufacturers during his tenure. How can we expect to stay out of war when Congress people are funded by those industries? I'm also the first drag queen to ever be elected to public office in the United States of America. I'm currently serving on the Silver Lake Neighborhood Council in Los Angeles, and I was actually just reelected for a second term yesterday to serve in 2021 and 2022. However, I'm also a trans person, and I hope to be the first trans person in Congress, because how can we expect actual representation in our government when we are not actually represented? When I ask you to vote, I ask you to vote for yourself and to vote for others. Please follow us on Instagram at Maybe a Girl, on Twitter, and our website, maybeagirlforcongress.org. Thank you so much, everybody tuning in, and thank you so much, Marianne, for having us.
I have a lot of admiration for you, that you're doing what you're doing, that you're out with what you're out with, and that you're taking on the kind of establishment icon that you're taking on because it's time. I think you're great. I hope that all of you will really do what you can to support Maybe a Girl. Go to candidatesummit.com. Thank you, Maybe. Thank you so much. Our next candidate is someone I just met over the last couple of days, but we're so excited that we had a chance to get him in here. Muad Rezi, who is running for Congress from Connecticut, a great candidate, and he'll convince you why. You don't need me to tell you. Muad Rezi, come on up. Hi, Muad, and welcome to you.
Thank you, Marianne, and thank you for having me. As you said, I was the last progressive candidate to be added to the slate, and I'm super honored. That means, though, that I am on the move. So I'm currently in Chicago in my aunt's place, which is why we have toys in the background and a bunch of clutter. I hate to throw them on the bus, but my cousins aren't doing a good job of keeping their room clean.
We love kids here, so
yeah, we love kids, but
yeah.
I do a little bit better. I'm not great, but my room is not usually this cluttered.
No, that's good.
But a bit about myself and my story and why I'm running for Congress. So my story begins with the story of my parents who immigrated from Libya, fleeing from the Gaddafi regime. And they came to America and they were able to establish themselves in Connecticut and raise me and my 5 siblings. They showed me and they taught me about the better side of America, the side that accepts refugees and asylum seekers, the side that, offered my dad an opportunity to work up the wealth ladder and start to generate some income for our family. And that side was a side that I had only known for a while. And it wasn't until the economic recession of 2008 that I started to see a darker side of America. I saw a recession that wrecked our economy, ripped apart families and friends. I saw a side that led to family members starting to use drugs and really devastate our local community. And it was also a side that showed me that when I had pneumonia and entered an emergency room, unable to breathe, gasping for air, that I was not, instead of being treated immediately, I was delayed care and told that my family owed a lot of medical debt, and that that I'd have to wait on the side while they continued to see what would happen with the billing situation. It was a darker side of America that showed me a lack of response after my friend was murdered by an Islamophobe, leading to an absolute shattering to me and my community, my faith community. These darker sides of America were sides that infuriated me, but also fascinated me. They led me to want to understand, why was this happening? Why was our country, the world's most powerful and wealthy country in the world, acting in such a way that seemed so antithetical to what this image and vision my parents had raised me with, this better America? And so I started studying these issues and ended up working for a U.S. Senator in Congress, advising him and trying to kind of get an inside peek at what our institutions were doing and how they're operating. And what I saw was nothing short of disastrous. I saw a system that was responsive to corporate and wealthy donors, but is not responsive to everyday Americans. It moves quickly when there's an issue that few care about, but have a lot of power. But when there's an issue where millions of people are unable to get treatment, that issue is not, unfortunately, resolved quickly, if ever given attention. And it was an infuriating process that led me to go ahead and take this big next step, which is to run for Congress. So I'm running against a corporatist Democrat, John Larson. He represents Connecticut's 1st district of Hartford and the suburbs. This district is a district that is considered the health insurance headquarter of the world, and we're the Medicare for All campaign that's willing to take it to these health insurers. Representative Larson, his stances are personal to me because of the fact that he's such an enemy and opponent to Medicare for All. When I was denied care, it was not because I was in need of care. It was because I was unable to afford it. And Representative Larson's positions is something that directly hurt me. Representative Larson also is somebody who funded the Iraq War, a war that was built on the foundation of a lie that Muslims are more terroristic in their behavior than others. Something that that could have fueled the killing of my friend. Something that is deeply troubling to me. something that needs to be changed. And Representative John Larson is someone who voted for the 99 bill that defunded Wall Street, or that deregulated Wall Street and deregulated the big banks, and led to an economic crash that devastated my community, as well as so many others across the country. So to me, politics is personal. To me, representatives that have been in Congress for over 2 decades, like Representative Larson, who have been taking money from corporate interests and have not been responding to our needs, now is the time to take them out. Their power and their hold on these seats is now, I think, is due for an examination. We are in the midst of an enormous crisis, the likes of which we haven't seen for decades. And as someone who's seen it from the firsthand from the inside, I know that we can and we deserve so much more. And it's only a matter of being able to imagine a better America and to elect representatives who are willing to fight for that better America that we all deserve.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I want to talk for a moment. I know that we're about halfway through, and I want to make sure that all of you have the kind of maybe take a rest, take a step, I don't know, maybe stand up, stretch your body a little bit. This is dense material in the sense that there's a lot coming at you, but I also know that you realize the importance of all this. I'm so moved by all of these people. I told you that before we came on, that I am moved by the courage, I'm moved by the strength of character, and obviously I'm very impressed by their knowledge of the issues and by the stances that they're taking. And I also hope that you will just join with me in thinking for a moment about how different this country would be if people like this were in Congress, if people like this were senators and congressmen, if people like this were governors. The only way we're going to get rid of bad policies is by changing the people who made those bad policies. And all of the people who are part of our summit tonight are people who will go to Washington, will go in a couple of cases, 3 cases, into North Carolina, into Virginia, into Maryland, into their state houses, and do things that are different than the way we're doing them. And we must do this. I don't think America has much of a grace period left. I think right now, when it comes to some of the things that many of us would stand for, you could say about a lot of the things people are talking about, well, we're taking certain steps, but incrementalism is not enough. Martin Luther King talked about the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. All of the people in the summit are standing for these things and will go there, and from day one, like Howie said, they'll actually make them happen. So once again, I hope you're in a generous mood. I can only imagine that you're impressed. And also, like I said, no amount is too small, whatever is right for you. If you throw energy towards these people, I know I speak for all of them in telling you how deeply grateful they are. It is absurd that money has the kind of influence that it does on our system. We need public funding of federal campaigns. Until we're there, you and I have to do this. And if enough of us give what's comfortable for us, no matter how small, then great things will happen for these people and great things will happen for America. Okay, candidatesummit.com. All right, now let's go back to the summit. And our next candidate is Alexandra Hunt, and she is running for Congress in Pennsylvania's District 3. Alexandra, hi.
Hi, I'm so glad to be here with a great candidates and all of you. My name is Alexandra Hunt, and I'm running for the House of Representatives in PA3, which is most of Philadelphia. I grew up with 2 parents who were teachers. I graduated college in 3 years to save money, even while working 2 jobs as a server and a stripper to make ends meet. I'm a survivor of 2 sexual assaults, and I moved to Philadelphia to complete 2 separate master's degrees. I spent time working for the Lakota on Pine Ridge Reservation. I currently work in public health. I'm a prison abolitionist and a community organizer for mass liberation. Recently, I was pushed out of my job as a soccer coach after my transparency of formerly working as a sex worker. I decided to run for public office while I was volunteering at a food distribution site in Philadelphia after the pandemic hit. I was examining how long the line was, and the thought ran through my head, this is all a policy choice. The next thought I had was, what are you waiting for? That was when I decided to run. Since then, I've been jumping hurdles thrown at me by a system that tries to keep everyday Americans out of office and protects the good old boys club from any accountability. My opponent doesn't answer to accountability. As a constituency, we have protested to have him sign on to Medicare for All and the Green New Deal to no avail. He doesn't answer his phone, show up at constituent meetings, or respond to emails. He's fully funded by corporate dollars, including private health insurance companies and private prisons. He sealed the fate of our public school system during his time in the State House, setting up charter schools and even founding one himself. He signed on to and supported Sesta Fosta, which pushed sex workers off online platforms into the streets and further into danger. He pushes for policy that invests more deeply in policing. He refuses to fight against gentrification. The biggest issue my opponent doesn't want you to know about is how he came into this seat. His predecessor was jailed on public corruption, and the media praised my opponent for not offering commentary on the issue while he ran against him. However, my opponent couldn't comment on an issue such as public corruption because he had lost power in the State House for the very same thing. He was even stripped of his committee post, which is one of the most disgraceful occurrences that could happen to a representative in our government. He has also sat in public office for 41 years. As part of the greater progressive movement, our campaign has set out to uplift the frustrations of everyday Americans and channel that energy into the transformative change we need to see in this country. When you marry our hopefulness and our right to vote, you find that we have a powerful movement growing right underneath our noses. We must stand up against these systems of oppression and fight for a better world together. Never in the history of this country has there been a party that's truly about the working class. That is this movement. When a grassroots campaigns run without a dime from corporate donors, we are showing our government the power of the people. Many of my peers are running for a seat at the table, and I commend and support them for it. However, I must confess I have a different agenda. I don't have any plans of sitting at this table. I find this table oppressive and hurtful. There isn't room for all of us, and I'm running to bring my community with me. I'm running to flip over this table. There's a political machine that sits in Philadelphia that has quite literally been starving our community. It runs on corporate greed and intimidation. Most resources coming out of our government aren't reaching the streets, and if they do, it's because we, the people, are fighting tooth and nail for them. There's a whole movement building in Philly and in our nation that we won't accept this neglect any longer. I might be one of the first challengers out the door, but Philadelphia is frustrated and we are preparing to primary officials all over the city. This is a safely blue district. In fact, we are the bluest district in the entire nation in the last election, yet we lead our country in poverty. We need representatives who are going to fight for us. Complacency is our greatest enemy, and we are running out of time to make the impactful changes we need to ensure a better, viable world for our future generations. We're angry, frustrated, and hurt. Let's take all of that and start making some changes that center the one thing that truly matters in this country, the people. Thank you. AlexandraMHunt.com.
I know we all feel depressed sometimes and even a little hopeless about the state of our country in certain areas. But if that woman is an example of young American womanhood, we're going to be fine. Alexandra and all of the people, all of these candidates exist. We don't lack, we have no dearth of geniuses in this country. We have no dearth of good hearts and intelligent people with all of the extraordinary sentiments that are being expressed here tonight and that were so eloquently and profoundly displayed by Alexandra. Now it's our job. It's our job to help her. It's our job to help all of these candidates so that they can help us. Please go to candidatesummit.com and do what you can. Alexandra, everybody who heard what you just said, I think was very fortunate to hear you. That was really profound. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, Derek Marshall from California District 8. We're back to California. Derek Marshall.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. I'm feeling super inspired by everyone that's on stage today. Thank you so much for having me, Marianne. It's such an honor. For those that don't know me, my name is Derek Marshall. I'm a progressive organizer and activist who lives in Victorville, California. I'm running to represent our 8th congressional district. You might be saying to yourself, hold on, this openly gay, proud progressive thinks he's going to win a race in a red district in a non-presidential campaign year. And to that I say, yeah. Our home has no business being represented by a freshman Republican, Jay Obernolte, whose very first vote out the gate was to object to the certification of Arizona and Pennsylvania. He's voted against equality and he's voted against stimulus. And he has no business representing us. And I'm going to tell you exactly how we're going to do it. First of all, for those that don't know the district, it is a place of spectacular beauty. I sometimes joke that, you probably know it from the car commercials, but it really is true. The district encompasses some of the most striking scenery in the country, from Joshua Tree up to Death Valley, all over the eastern side of the Sierra Nevadas, plus a bunch of iconic Americana towns like Victorville. Route 66 goes right through the downtown, 29 Palms, right at the edge of Joshua Tree. We've got Bishop, all the different tribal lands. We have it all. We've also got an amazing diversity of people, immigrants from all over the country, artists and creators who got priced out of LA or just needed more space, families who are descendants of Okies from the Dust Bowl era, and families who are descendants of the people who painted the petroglyphs out in the desert, and from whose land Southern California gets most of its water. And as beautiful as it is, and as absolutely brimming with potential as it is, and as amazing and diverse as our people are here, it's a really tough place to live. People here work really, really hard, but the question that I have is who is working for us? In the past few years, if it's taught us anything, it's that people across the board are struggling. They are tired, they are literally sick. They do not feel heard, and they believe that nobody is on their side. And for the most part, they are correct. Politicians have prioritized the desires of the wealthy over the needs of regular people. We bail out banks without thinking twice, but when people need real relief, it gets stalled with partisanship and power games. And we're here doing the hard work, but are the people that we send to Washington doing that work on our behalf? And too often the answer is no. I got my campaign started early here on the ground because I'm an organizer. I worked as a field organizer for Bernie 2020 in Nevada, and then I worked on a bunch of different down ballot campaigns, AOC, Alex Morris. I helped to staff out the Georgia teams that registered all those voters in Georgia, and I organized with Brown Gay in LA and several LGBTQ+ organizations. And even before that, I worked with the United Nations on an international accountability research initiative that spread to 30 countries. I believe in organizing. I believe in the power of people coming together and building something bigger than themselves. I believe that by building out deep organizational infrastructure as early as possible, we're not only going to flip my district blue, we're going to flip all of our districts progressive blue. Progressive blue means Medicare for all, Green New Deal, college for all, and other extremely popular progressive policies. We will prove to skeptical folks that real progressive change is good for them, good for their families, and good for our community. And that's how we're going to win. We've already started our organizing plan. We're super excited to announce that we've raised over $100,000 in 1,000 individual donations in our first quarter. And we've got the momentum that we need to go all the way. We can do this, but we need everyone's help. Everyone on Twitter and the Twitter sphere, the social medias, at Derek Marshall CA is my social handle, DEREK Marshall CA. And thank you all so much. I feel inspired. You all inspire me. And I'm looking forward to just like linking arms with everyone and doing this. So thank you.
Thank you. I think the diversity here tonight is marvelous. Including the sexual diversity, including the diversity of things. I mean, we need a trans person in Congress, you know, the fact that Derek and others of his generation now feel openly gay, feel they can be openly gay running for Congress. All of these things were hard fought battles. And I think, Derek, you're a wonderful, you stand on the shoulders of a lot of giants who fought hard so that you could have the life that you have and you could stand for the things that you stand for. And obviously we need more people in Washington who will stand for rights such as those that you care about. I wish you the very, very best. Once again, everybody, candidatesummit.com. Okay, another young woman who really touches my heart, and I know that she'll touch yours as well, who comes from my native state of Texas. I'm really looking forward to your meeting her. Jessica Mason from Texas District 30. Jessica.
Marianne, thank you so much for inviting me tonight. And to all my fellow endorsees, it is an honor to share this space with you. And to those watching at home, thank you for taking the time to listen to my story and the story of Texas 30. My name is Jessica Mason. I am a Navy veteran, and I currently work as an organizer in affordable housing communities across my district. But most importantly, I'm here today because of the generations of strong Black women from South Dallas that came before me. My story begins as a little girl raised in poverty because of the zip code that I lived in. I grew up in a community that was devastated by the crack epidemic, and my community was failed by political design. My mother worked 12 plus hours a day for a millionaire businessman, but she was paid starvation wages and could not afford to keep the lights on in our home. As a child, I had severe asthma attacks at night, and my mother would have to carry me to the fire station down the street just to power on my nebulizer. The medication that I needed to treat my asthma at the time cost $20, but my mother couldn't afford it. And because of that, my lung collapsed at the age of 7. I spent 3 months in the ICU. What does that say about America? the richest country in the world. How can we let Black and brown children continue to suffer and nearly die of treatable diseases because they don't have adequate insurance? In South Dallas, where I'm from, our children are more likely to develop severe asthma because of pollution. Our water pollution is worse than Flint's. Black women are dying during childbirth, and we have some of the lowest life expectancies in the state of Texas. Our healthcare system places profits over people, and it's not working for us anymore. We need Medicare for all, and that's the end of the story. We've had the same representation for 28 years, and her loyalties lie with healthcare corporations and the fossil fuel industries that fund her campaigns. She was recently seen cozying up with Senator John Cornyn in the media, touting a bipartisan corporate welfare bill to weatherize Texas's unregulated power grid. But what Texas needs is a Green New Deal and guaranteed federal jobs, massive investments in green infrastructure, not incentives to continue producing gas and coal-powered energy and further enriching the pockets of these oil executives. And with all due respect, I'm not okay with bipartisanship when that means compromising on the rights of Black, brown, and immigrant people. So we really need to stop with the bipartisan propaganda and really advocate for the people of Texas 30. Our representative also failed to support Cori Bush's amendment on voting rights for incarcerated people, and she refuses to apologize for voting for the 1994 crime bill that has led zip codes in my district to have the highest incarceration rate in the state of Texas. How many Black men are in jail because of a joint? How many Black men are in jail because they are victims of poverty? How many Black men are killed because of irresponsible and racist policy? We need to end the privatized prison system and stop the criminalization of poverty and Blackness. I am running because I'm angry. The system has failed marginalized communities and working class people across this nation and in my community. And I can speak for hours on the injustice happening in my community. Texas leads the nation in transgender murders. Why do we still have an LGBTQ panic defense? We have Americans who are wary of getting vaccinated because they're undocumented and don't trust the system. We have working people who cannot afford food or rent. In Dallas, we have 19 affordable housing units for every 100 people in need. Black and brown women have been evicted from their homes at unprecedented rates. Majority of the people in my district live below the poverty line. And we have generations of Black and brown people who built this damn country and who have been incapable of accumulating wealth in it. We need reparations. We need unions in every single workplace. We need comprehensive immigration reform. We need representatives to stop making excuses and hiding behind procedures. This race is really a matter of life or death for the people that I love. And we must call out systemic racism and crony capitalism for what it is and be proactive in legislating policies designed to correct these failings. I hope that everyone watching tonight will take time to check out my website at jessicamasonforcongress.com. Follow us on Twitter at JessicaMasonTX and donate whatever you can to topple this system that has failed so many of us. Thank you all, and please join us in this fight against oppression. Again, my name is Jessica Mason, and I'm running for Congress in Texas 30.
Oh, beautiful, 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 everybody. Help this woman get there. Everybody who has spoken, I know that you feel the way I do, that boy, what this country will be, and these are the people who are serving. Okay, Jessica Mason, go to candidatesummit.com. You can go and donate there and also look at their individual websites as well. Thank you, Jessica. That was really big. Jessica, aren't you a Navy veteran?
Yes, I'm a Navy veteran.
Navy veteran on top of everything else. God bless you, honey. Thank you. Marvelous, marvelous. Now we have a U.S. Senate candidate and with an incredible background. This is a big one. She might be running against Laura Trump, who is the most popular Republican running for the seat of a U.S. Senator, the next U.S. Senator from North Carolina, and that is the extraordinary Erica Smith. Erica, welcome.
Thank you so much, Marianne. I am so happy to be in this space. To my colleague endorsees, this is just a wonderful opportunity for us to stand in solidarity and press for those issues that we know will make real changes and impact those who need it the most. So this is my second time running for U.S. Senate. I ran in 2020. I was the second highest vote getter in the Democratic primary. And it was because a corporate Dem was recruited to get out of the lieutenant governor's race to run in the U.S. Senate race. I represent the new face of electability in the South. When you have someone who has lived in, grown up in, worked in, organized in, and represented a rural part of the state, that's how we know we can flip North Carolina blue. Georgia showed us just what could be done when we rely on the work of so many people who understand the importance of closing rural and urban divides. And that's certainly something that I've been doing the last 3 terms that I served in the North Carolina Senate. I represented Northeastern North Carolina, which is the 15th most impoverished congressional district in the entire nation. It is where we had many of our plantations and systemic oppression, discrimination, and high poverty left over from the systemic racism that took place from slavery. I am an engineer by training. I am an educator by trade. I am an ecumenical leader by call, and I am an equity builder by mission. I stand with you to promote an opportunity for America to work for those who make America work. I am so tired of this country only working for the wealthy and the well-connected. It is time that we make this country work for all of us. And that's why my tagline is one of us for all of us. Truly, as I look at where I have been and the lived experiences that I have had as an engineer, I only earned 62 cents on the dollar of my white male counterparts, and that is unfair. I believe that part of the ways that we address this extreme income inequality in this country is to make sure that we have equal work, equal pay for equal work, that we close the pay disparity across demographics and also across geographies and across genders. And so I am really excited about my progressive platform. I am not one of those candidates who wait to see what the next poll tells them that they should stand on an issue. I'm informed by my principles. I'm informed by my faith, and my faith tells me that babies don't be in cages at the border, that we need to have a common sense immigration plan that allows a safe route to citizenship in this country. My faith informs me that we need to make sure that we take care of this planet, that we create millions of good paying jobs, and that we address the climate crisis with the attention that it needs and that it demands. I am all for making sure that we have equity in this country. And that's why I have fought so hard for parity and funding for HBCUs as a state senator to make sure that our historically serving minority institutions receive the same appropriations that our PWIs receive so that we can make sure that we have equity in this country. I just want to share with you who I am. I am a mother of 4 sons, 4 Black sons, 3 living. My son, who is deceased now, was born medically fragile. I had a good state job, but my state job with my employer-based health care had me bring my son home after being in the NICU for 6 months. He was born at 1 pound, 1/2 ounce. He had feeding issues. He had a tracheostomy, and I brought him home 6 months later. My insurance company gave me 4 hours of health care, work and get sleep, and raise my other children off of 4 hours of private duty nursing. And I said, okay, I don't have to sleep. And who's going to sleep anyway? I want to make sure he's breathing. I want to be sure I can hear his oxygen. And so we had to get rid of every asset. We had to get down to 1 vehicle for my family. My older children had to quit their part-time job. They had to cut off their activities. And I had to get a second job as an alternative school educator just so I can afford the $368 per month for the humidifiers, the nosies that went over his tracheostomy. No family should have to go broke because someone gets sick. So we need to fight for Medicare for all. Policy is personal for me and representation matters. And this is why I am in this fight. I could have stayed on the sidelines when I lost in 2020, but I said there's no one to stand up and represent those workers who deserve a decent pay wage. There's no one to stand for the children in the rural areas who can't access broadband.
Thank you, Erica. Thank
Erica,
you.
for us,
Yeah, and
One-
I think when Erica makes the comments that she makes about the need for medical care, when she and others also have spoken, Jessica was talking about her childhood sickness, and Muad was talking about his as well. When Erica talks about what she went through with her son, with lack of health care, this is what we need in the US Senate. This is what we need. People who will make sure that Medicare for All will get passed. Once again, candidatesummit.com. And that, of course, was Erica Smith. And she is running in the primary for Senate, Democratic Senate candidate in North Carolina. And we know, and what Erica said was true, this is the new face of the American South. Let's help her get there. Now, someone also who is one of those extraordinary young American women that gives me a lot of hope and a lot of excitement, and that is the marvelous Christine Olivo from Florida, District 24. Christine, hi.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Marianne, for having all of us on this platform. And thank you to all of my colleagues. I'm inspired by you. You keep me encouraged every day. My name is Christine Olivo. I'm from Florida. I'm running here in Florida for the second time. I am challenging Frederica Wilson. I am a working class mom. I'm first generation American. My family's from Haiti. My husband is Puerto Rican. He's a truck driver. He works really hard to provide for myself and our two crazy kids. And we have 2 dogs and a turtle. We're a full house. People ask, Christine, why are you running against a giant? And I said, I'm not afraid of the giant. I'm afraid that my kids are going to grow up in a district that 3 families are living in one house. I'm afraid that my kids are going to grow up and not be able to afford to go to college like their mother, who I had to drop out of college to save our house from going under foreclosure by working 3 jobs, and we still lost the house. I have worked 3 jobs almost my whole life, but the most important job that I worked for me was as the youth director of Holy Cross here in North Miami. For 6 years, I mentored the children in this community. I worked with the families. We did Wednesday family dinners where we would help the families communicate with the children. And I saw as an adult that things haven't changed from the time when I was a little girl, that everything is still the same. And we have an incumbent that has normalized an impoverished mentality, that has normalized an impoverished lifestyle. When we have public housing being sold to private developers, I have a problem with that. When we have only a quarter of our district having healthcare, one of them being my uncle that I watched die in my hands because he couldn't afford to treat his cancer. When I see that this pandemic has exposed the flaws in our healthcare, the flaws in our unemployment system, the flaws in our education, I'm not afraid to run against a giant. I'm afraid not to. What will happen if we don't? A good friend of mine said the other day, we are the change that we've been waiting for. And every single one of us right here, we are the change that we've been waiting for. When they say, Christine, you're just a mom. How are you qualified? You're just a small business owner, still working a job, trying to build everything. How are you qualified? When they say you just graduated with your degree now, after dropping out when you were 19, you just graduated. What makes you qualified? I say, because I lived it.
That's right, girl.
So please go to christineforcongress.org. Support us. One of the things that my opponent, a staffer of my opponent said, man, if that girl had money, she'd be a real threat. Well, guess what? I'm a real threat. All of us are. Yes, we need the money, but we've got the people.
Well, I think you all are very clear why I'm so excited about Christine Olivo. And also I want to speak a little bit to the subject she brought up. The founders intended the House of Representatives to be the people's house. They thought it would be the farmer, they thought it would be the tailor, they thought it would be the blacksmith, et cetera. The fact that there has developed in the United States this idea of a political class and so much, such a prejudice in the favor of lawyers, business people, and so forth does not particularly serve us well. And that was not the original vision anyway. We don't, as I said before, we don't lack genius. We don't lack, but what we do lack in the U.S. government certainly is passion. We don't need more, there's this myth of the experts. We don't lack expertise, we lack principles. We lack vision. We have managers, but we don't have vision. And it is that lack of vision, it is that lack of principles, it is that lack of passion for people and for planet, particularly among policymakers in this country, which has caused the extraordinary decline that now threatens our democracy and that threatens our country. One of the things that all of the candidates here have talked about tonight, they realize that their importance being here tonight is that they are part of a larger group. And of course, that's not just the candidates who are here tonight, but others who are running around the country, some of whom I hope that we will at some point know. So when Christine says, I'm a mother, I was born here, this is enough. People have said to me my entire life, what gives you the right? What makes you qualified? And our answer is, I was born and I have a brain and I have a heart. And we need a little bit more of that in this country. So God bless you. Go to candidatesummit.com and please give Christine some love. America needs her. Okay, Charles Thompson, here's another Texan, also running against an icon, but for good reason. Charles Thompson from Texas District 18. Welcome, Charles.
Hello, welcome, Marianne. Thank you for everyone for being here tonight. Congratulations to all my fellow progressives that are here tonight. I'm honored to be here. When people say they were born and raised in a certain city or neighborhood, they typically say it with a sense of pride. However, for me, being born and raised in the 18th Congressional District brings so much more than pride. It brings about a sense of identity, familiarity, and deep passion. I grew up in a multiracial family in 3rd Ward of Houston. Not only did I grow up in the historical 3rd Ward, but my family has lived in the area for 3 generations. My paternal grandparents were both deeply involved in the local civil rights movement. My grandfather was a physician in the district, and my grandmother served on the board of the United Negro College Fund. I am a proud public school educator in the Houston Independent School District and have taught at Title I schools for each of my 8 years in education. As a product of the Houston Independent School District, I have witnessed the discrepancies in the public school system. Also, my experiences growing up in this area of Houston have made me the person I am today. They have inspired me to become an educator in Title I schools so I can help communities who are in need the most. It is my responsibility to meet the academic and social needs of all students as a former teacher and now current assistant principal. Over the years, I have worked with students and community members who are faced with homelessness, mental health issues, and who are at risk of dropping out of school. The differences in services between the areas of Houston were always apparent as I was growing up. But now that I have seen these issues firsthand as an adult, I feel even more compelled to fight for change for those who have been overlooked for far too long. Furthermore, my past experiences, the work I have done over the past 8 years, including advocating for highway reform and environmental justice, have inspired me to run for Congress. My intention of running for Congress is to serve those who are in need the most. I am running to ensure that all students have access to quality education and teachers receive the adequate resources and the pay that is needed to effectively teach their students. I am running because I know what it's like to have to play financial checkers with your paycheck. I am running because I've had to choose between adding my daughter to my health insurance plan and paying student loans. I know what it's like to stay up late with your spouse asking yourself, how are we going to pay for college when she graduates from high school because the rising cost of tuition has become unaffordable for the average person in this country? I am running because I represent a generation that knows what it's like to have graduated from college during the middle of a financial crisis, high unemployment rates, and rising student loan debt. I am running for Congress to give my generation and future generations a voice so they can live their lives without all of these burdens. I plan on accomplishing this by engaging with all voters and working with all community members to create a better future for CD18. Within the past few years, we have had several D and F rated Dems join the Progressive Caucus. In addition to having members with progressive punch scores of D or F, I find it deeply concerning that members such as Sheila Jackson Lee is one of the vice chairs of the Progressive Caucus, has received a progressive punch score of a C. This is another example of an establishment member and corporate Democrat who has long ties with corporate donors such as Goldman Sachs, Chevron, BP, and including Lockheed and Martin, and has been virtually silent on all major progressive policies, buying their way into the Progressive Caucus to avoid major opposition in the primaries. Now more than ever, we need a more true progressives in office that will help not only advance important legislation, such as Medicare for All and the Green New Deal, but to actively engage their constituents regarding these important policies. As an educator, I tell my students all the time, you can do better than a C. Now I am telling the voters of the 18th the same. We can do better than a C. We deserve better. I'm Charles Thompson, and I'm running to be the next representative of the 18th Congressional District of Texas. Thank you.
I was born and raised in Houston, and my great aunt Reva lived in a house off South McGregor, which is in your district, Charles. I have a lot of soft feelings in my heart for your specific district. And also when you said that the woman who is in that seat right now has taken money from Chevron, has taken money from some of the other entities that you spoke of, this is not the way to move America forward. And the fact that Charles has had the experience that he's had as a public school teacher, once again, candidatesummit.com, do what you can. Thanks. All right, and our last candidate this evening is someone that I think is really fabulous. She ran before and I supported her, and I'm so glad she's back. It's so great to see people like Angelica, see people like see people like Michaela. They came, they got close, they made inroads, and now they're coming back. And it's great to have her here with us tonight. Michaela Wilkes, she's running in Maryland from District 5.
Hello, and thank you for allowing us all to be here. I'm very honored to be in this space amongst so many great candidates, and I'm looking forward to becoming colleagues with each and every one of them. My name is Michaela Wilkes, and I'm running for Congress in Maryland's 5th Congressional District as a primary challenger to, as a Democratic primary challenger of Steny Hoyer, who's been my congressman for my entire life and 10 years before that. I'm running because I am someone who was directly impacted. I was thrown into the school to prison pipeline and incarcerated in juvenile detention for skipping school, running away from home, and essentially suffering from mental health issues after suffering the loss of my aunt on September 11th while she was working at the Pentagon. As an adult, I was thrown into the criminal justice system essentially because of poverty and because of traffic debt. I had no idea that non-payment of tickets could land you in jail. But that's where I was. I was caught in a very vicious cycle. I had no idea that I could have health insurance that I thought was good health insurance, but that my insurance provider would deny my health insurance, would deny me life-saving medication after being diagnosed with deep vein thrombosis, after being turned away time after time, after going to the emergency room 3 and 4 times. And being turned away, being told that my pain wasn't serious, that I was a hypochondriac, that I was having a panic attack, and I was on the brink of a pulmonary embolism, being admitted to the hospital. And so that year was a very pivotal moment for me, being incarcerated and also being told in the same year that I could possibly die and that my health insurance company didn't want to pay for that medication. I wasn't always into politics though. I was very politically disengaged because to me, it didn't matter how we voted, who we voted for, nothing would fundamentally change because nothing had changed no other time when I had ever voted. No politician ever knocked on my door. No one who ever represented me ever cared to speak about any issues that were important to me and that would help my community. And so I really didn't see any point of being politically engaged. But the irony in that is that that's why I decided to run for Congress, because I was fed up and because nothing was changing, because we were voting and we were getting the same thing over and over again, because we have this person that is in Congress that has contributed to my life by signing on to every single crime bill that has ever written. The 1994 crime bill, in fact, is the one that increased funding for the school resource officer program on the federal level, which I was arrested by school resource officers. Someone who refuses to support Medicare for all, who refuses to even put it on the floor for a vote. People always talk about Mitch McConnell's graveyard, but what about Steny Hoyer's graveyard and all of the policies that he refuses to put on the floor for a vote because he's a shill for his corporate donors? That's unacceptable. And gone are those days. I'm running because it is finally time for us to be liberated as marginalized people, as Black people, as LGBTQ plus people. It is time for us to rise up, and it's time for us to become to have a seat at the table. And it's time for us to have a voice in the halls of Congress. And so I'm running for every single person who was like me, who thought that it didn't matter because their vote didn't matter. It didn't matter if they voted that things weren't going to change, because that's somewhat true. We have been voting and nothing has changed at all. But I'm here to be that vote for them that will actually change things in our community. And I'm coming to Congress as a fighter, as I've always been. I'm coming to Congress as an organizer and someone who understands what it's like to live off of food stamps, what it's like to live off of public health insurance, what it's like to not know when you're going to be able to pay your light bill, what it's like to have to choose between paying a ticket to keep your freedom or to put food on the table for your kids. I know all about that. And I'm running for every single person that has a similar story as I do, and everybody who was tired. I'm running because I'm mad as hell. And I would like anyone who's watching this to visit MichaelaWilkes.com and join our race. Yes, we live in Maryland, but every single one of us here on this call, it's so important that we all get in, because once you're elected on the federal level, your policy impacts every single person in this country, which is why it's important that as many of us get in. So please support not only me, but every single person on this call, because our lives literally depend on it.
Thank you, Michaela. I know that I don't have to convince anybody, whether it's about Michaela or anybody else who has been with us tonight, why it's important to send these people to Congress, why it's important to send them to the Senate, to the House, and in one case, to the governor's office in the State House of the Commonwealth of Virginia. One of the things that I found when I ran for office is, even though I certainly felt I was in the belly of the beast, saw the corruption, saw how political media establishment, sort of media complex that I've seen, I get how it works. But I also saw something else very important to me, and that was the decency and the dignity and the intelligence and the goodness of the American people. The American people are not the problem. In issue after issue, it's demonstrated the American people are left of center. The American people, majority of the American people, for instance, want Medicare for all. Of course, the American people want food that's uncorrupted. Of course, the Americans want to feel they're feeding their children healthy food. Of course, the American people want to feel that their water is safe to drink. Of course, the American people want us to be a good nation who tries to do well by other people. The problem is not with the American people. The problem is with a political system which actually does as much to thwart as to support the practice of real democracy. The real goodness and intelligence and decency of the American people is not expressed enough within our Congress, within our policy-making institutions, because of the undue influence of money on our system. The only way that we can counter that is by getting the right people into these offices, because they're not getting these corporate donations. That means that you and I have to do what we can. Each and every one of you, I want to say to those of you who are the candidates, you all did marvelously tonight. I was so moved by each and every one of you, and I'm moved by the support that you've shown to one another. I'm moved by the fact that you obviously get that you're part of a big movement. We need a progressive movement. It can't just be a candidate here and a candidate there. And I'm also moved by those of you who logged on tonight, who listened, those of you who sent money and those of you who didn't send money. If you didn't send any money, maybe you'll send a little bit of money now, maybe you'll send money later. I hope that you'll tell your friends about this. I hope you'll tell people to go to candidatesummit.com, because this will remain up. All of you who are candidates, you should be very proud of yourselves. You presented yourselves very beautifully tonight. I can't imagine anyone who was not moved by what you said and are not inspired by the idea of what America can be. What America can be if we take that which is truly who we are as Americans in our hearts, with our dignity, with our decency, with our sense of justice and love and mercy and possibility, and take that to Washington, and take that to the state houses, and take that to everywhere where leadership matters. That's what can happen now. That's what must happen. And with your support, that's what we're going to make happen, because we're Americans. Thank you so much. God bless you all. Good night. Oh, I want to thank the wonderful Howie Klein for all the vetting, for all the information. I want to thank the marvelous producer, Wendy Zahler, for putting all of this together. I also want to thank my friend Lauren Selsky, who has been here tonight to help. To all of you, all my best. Much gratitude and much love. See you later.